I'm still messing around with my things here. Okay, so does anyone have any suggestions for me in particular that you would like to share, request? I thought since it was Valentine's Day, we would do some more of our heart opening area for our chest, our shoulders, our neck, and help with our posture. So this will include some back bending as well. And maybe start off with a little bit more movement this morning just to make sure we are warmed up and loosened up so our body can move safely in our practice. So at this point, I'm going to mute you all, but feel free to unmute yourself at any time if you have any questions or comments. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to have us start in a child's pose. Any version of a child's pose that works for you, if it works for you. If it doesn't, you're always welcome to start in another option, lying on your back in Shavasana or even in a seated position, just somewhere we can start to get settled. As far as our props go today, let's have the usual things that we might have around us. So a nice big pillow, a folded blanket. We're going to want a blanket or our towel for at some point. You know what? I changed my mind. I'm sorry. That's not where I wanted us to start. I'm like, scratch, 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 start over. I'm like, I pulled out that blanket and that pillow for a reason. Yoga blocks, if you have them, cushions, and yoga straps. So if you already got in your child's pose, you got a nice little back bending stretch. I want us to start with our lift through our back and some support for our legs. So sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. We'll be there shortly. So what I would suggest is if you want just a more subtle lift for the back, use a towel and take it to a trifold so it's in a longer rectangular shape. I'm going to try to lift up a little bit higher today. So I've taken my throw blanket here, folded it in half one time, folding it in half again. And it doesn't matter how long the rectangle is, we just want it long enough at least to support the back and the back of the head. So I have this square shape. I'm going to take it and trifold it. So that means I fold one side in about a third, and then I fold the other side over about a third. And for me, that gives me a longer rectangular shape like this. And then I'm going to take, ideally, the folded edge of the blanket. If you manage to fold up your rectangle and all the folds were on one side, we would take that side of our rectangle and face it inward. It just tends to be a little bit more smoother, but it doesn't really matter. Don't worry about that too much. And then I'm going to have some leftover blanket at the top of mine to maybe roll under and support my head a little bit more. And then we'll take our bolsters, our bigger pillows, and place those to the front of our mat. And that's going to support our legs here as we bring our legs up and over. So for the low back, we will be sitting on the floor. We might want to have a little bit of space from the edge of our spinal support of our blanket and the lower buttocks. Some people like to slide it pretty close in. You're going to just have to determine what feels best for your low back. I'm going to plant my feet, kind of lift my hips up, lengthen out that low back a little bit, and then start to release my spine down that blanket. And like I said, it should be supporting the blanket, the spine, all the way through the back and the back of the head. So since I have a lot of blanket left over, I'm going to reach back there and tuck it under and see how that feels. Maybe I'm just going to pull it about halfway and give my neck a little bit more support. That feels better. And then we're going to cactus our arms. So we'll bring our elbows out from the shoulders, bending at the elbows, and allowing the backs of the hands to flop to the floor. And we should feel an opening and a stretch almost immediately through the chest and the front of the shoulders. As far as the legs are concerned, we can keep them nice and wide, draped over that support, just allowing the feet to fall open. But if it's more comfortable for us to have those knees bent up, the pillow can still act as a little support behind the knee creases there. So we'll just take a moment here to figure out what works best. And another option, lots of choices, is to come into Baddha Konasana as well. So bound angle pose. I would use our pillow underneath the legs, soles of the feet touching, knees opening wide. And that will also include a little hip opening. So once we start to get in position here, continue to adjust the props and our surroundings till we're comfortable. If the backs of the hands don't easily touch the ground, take a few deep breaths, and maybe over time, as gravity helps traction out on that area of our body, they might come a little bit more closely to the ground. You can also place props under the backs of the hands or just let them hang out in space. Let's find the back center of our skull, close our eyes, and let's all take a nice cycle of breath in and out through our nose. Big breath in. And on this next exhale, we'll feel the whole body relax and start to settle onto our mat over our props. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling through the nose. Fill the body up with some fresh air and energy this morning. A nice big exhale back out, letting go of any tension or tightness. Exhaling away any stress or worries you might be carrying around. And then let's start to mentally move through our body, taking a mental scan of the whole body from the very top of the head, working our way out and down through the arms into the fingertips, all the way down the legs into the toes. And as we're moving through our body, we are taking some inventory here. So we're also consciously relaxing muscles as we come across them, especially all the little muscles around the face, the mouth, tongue, and jaw. We might notice some areas of our body that we're healing or taking care of this morning. We'll relax those areas as well, remembering that we always modify and adjust accordingly. Bringing the qualities of ahimsa, or nonviolence, into our practice. And the quality of santosha, or contentment, into our practice. Continue to let the whole body relax here. And let's start to spread our awareness now back to that breath. At first, just observe the body breathe. Watching the natural rhythm of the breath flow in and out through the nose. Try to keep the breath as smooth and even as possible. And then we're going to start to work a little bit more with our breath. We'll start with some yogic breathing in the belly. And then we're going to turn this into our 3-part wave-like breath, so it moves all the way up and down the torso of the body and opens up the area of the chest a little bit more. So let's start to concentrate on the abdominal muscles around our navel center. On our next inhale, we're going to relax that belly completely, allowing it to expand like a balloon and rise. On the exhale, we'll allow the weight of the belly to drop back down into the body. Inhale, breathing relaxes the abdominal muscles. That belly expands, it rises. On the exhale, the belly drops back down into the body. We may also gently pull the navel towards the spine, contracting those abdominal muscles. We'll each establish a comfortable rhythm with our own breath and body. Now we're going to add another layer. So we're going to start to try to move this breath a little bit more up and down the body. So next inhale, start with the belly again. Breathe in, let the abdomen expand. Now keep filling the body up. We'll feel the rib cage expand, the chest will rise, and we'll fill ourselves all the way up to the brim of the throat. On the exhale, we'll reverse the breath back out. So soften the throat, soften the chest, Let the belly drop back in, gently pulling navel towards the spine. Inhale starts with the belly. We let it expand. We keep filling, inhaling, rib cage expands, chest rises, and then we fill ourselves up as much as we can into the throat at the brim. Exhaling, we release the breath from top to bottom. So soften the throat, soften the chest, draw the belly back in, squeezing all that old air out. If you'd like to mentally count the breath to make sure that we're also in that Samavriti pranayama, a nice smooth and equal breath, feel free to do so. And then we might begin to expand and lengthen the breath. So if you are counting, you can add an additional 1 or 2 counts to both the inhale and exhale. Our breath is our guide throughout our practice. It is a bridge between the mind and the heart. And then let's all cycle through one more breath. This one, we'll let go of any counting. We're just going to try to take the very biggest breath we can of our day yet. So on that next inhale, slowly, smoothly fill the body all the way up. When we can't take any more air in, we will slowly, gently start to exhale, but we are going to put some effort into this exhale, trying to empty every last drop. When there's no more air left to exhale, we will let go of trying to follow and control our breath for a moment. Let it wander away wherever it wants to go. Start to feel the physical body again, and let's wake up the toes. Give those fingertips a little wiggle. Rock the head side to side. If we can, stretch the arms now even further overhead, coming into our long body stretch. If you're more elevated, your arms might be floating a little bit from the floor. That's fine, as long as it's not too much of a strain on the shoulders. If the knees are open and bound angle, float the knees up, straighten the legs out, and take the legs out into a nice stretch. Point and flex the feet a couple times. If we have a lift under the legs, our feet will probably float up off the ground a couple inches. Move a little bit side to side, creating that space throughout the whole body. And then take one more big breath in here. This time, spread the fingers as wide as possible, palms facing the ceiling. Flex the feet, toes pulling into the shin bones, and spread those toes as wide as we can. And then on the exhale, we're going to soften and let the body drop back down. We'll slide the arms all the way down and step our feet in. So again, if we have a higher lift under our back, we might not be able to pull our knees to our chest, but we might be able to hold behind our thighs and float our feet from the floor and do a little rocking here side to side. If it's available, take a hold of those shins, pull the knees a little bit more closely into the body to give the back a little bit of a stretch. And then let's all hold behind those thighs and just straighten the legs up towards the ceiling. Now, they might not straighten up all the way, but we can still rub up and down those hamstrings and give them a little bit of a stretch here. Point and flex those feet up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to bend the knees in, bring one arm beside the head, and carefully roll off to one side. So take your time, do what you need to do with your props, so that we're pausing just for a moment in our sleeping baby pose on our side. And then we'll press down into the ground, stretch that top leg forward to help the body come up, and we are going to come up to a seated position. So once we get up to the seat, we'll probably need to rearrange ourselves a little bit. We'll bring a prop underneath our sit bones so that we can sit up nice and tall, and then we're going to start some of our fluid movement to warm the body here. If you have 2 yoga blocks, that's always a nice option, is to take your yoga blocks on their low setting and bring them together, and bring them behind the body. So that's a nice way to sit up. And firmly folded blankets, bolsters, other type of cushion. And we could take any position in those legs, so whether that's Sukhasana or easy cross, heel to heel. Move the flesh out of the way. If the knees need additional support, take that as well with pillows and blankets. Draw the low belly in slightly. Feel the openness here still through the heart center that we already created on our back. Let's float the fingertips out to the side, turning the palms up, following that breath again. Inhale and reach it up. Big stretch. Turn those palms out and exhale, float the fingertips back towards the ground. So if you're a little higher up like I am, my fingertips are just barely touching the ground, and that's okay. Stay connected to the core, seated triangle. Inhale, the right arm will reach up. We'll keep those sit bones rooted equally as we lean over to the left for our lateral extension. Good. Inhale, pull the body back up through center. Switch those arms. Exhale, another lateral stretch. Inhale, pulls us up through center. If you'd like to change the drishti or the gaze, you may. So we might look down to our bottom hand. We might look up to our top hand. Big breath in to move through center. One more time over to our right. The inhale, we will meet back up with both arms reaching to the ceiling. Bring those palms to touch and exhale to our heart center. So those of us sitting cross-legged, I'd like us to try to switch up that cross right away because we do tend to always sit the same way. Opposite foot in front, pull the belly in. And now we'll go for our seated flowing twist. So inhale, reach up. Now keep the spine long. On the exhale, we're just rotating to our right around the axis of the spine. Fingertips might float down. So again, your back fingertips might not even touch the ground. You can try to reach to the opposite knee. Continue to twist to the shoulders, the neck. Open the eyes as wide as possible and look to the furthest point behind you without straying. Inhale, everything comes back up to center. On the exhale, same thing. We're rotating, so there's no flexion in the spine. The shoulders and the chin stay parallel to the ground. Don't try to necessarily touch the floor if you're higher up, but do continue that twist all the way up to the crown of the head. Open those eyes wide, peek behind you, and inhale, bring it back up. So really use that nice long exhale to wring it all out. We're going to go one more time to each side. Follow your breath. After you've twisted one more time to your left, the inhale will bring us back up to center. Bring those palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. So we're going to do another little movement here for the chest, upper back area. So let's interweave all 10 fingers. Nice, strong grip. Then flip your palms so that they face forward. This is going to be some purposeful rounding and extension of the back. So we're going to press our palms forward. We're going to pull the belly in. I want you to feel like you're splaying your shoulder blades apart. So we're creating space to the back of the heart. We can drop the chin down to the chest and look to our belly button. Now on the inhale, tip your pelvis back forward. Float the arms up. Palms facing up to the ceiling. Pull the head of the arm bones back for a little bit more extension and stretch. On the exhale, we're rounding over an invisible beach ball. Pull the belly in, round through the back. The arms will lower down to whatever degree. Create space in the back of the heart, chin to chest. Inhale, pelvis tips forward. Create a little arch in that low back. Pull the head of the arm bones up and back. Try to press up through the heels of the hands. Good. One more round. Big exhale to round and stretch. And then one more inhale to float it up. Try to sit up as tall as possible. Open up those shoulders. Arms can come back. Open the hands. Exhale. Float the fingertips down towards the floor. Good. Take a shoulder roll. Roll those shoulders out. So I want us to do one more movement here for our head and neck. Do switch up the cross of the legs again if you want, or if that's your awkward stance, maybe hold it a little bit longer today. Sit bones rooted, low belly and fingertips are floating out to the floor. Kind of shrug your shoulders away from the ears. Take a nice deep breath in. And on the exhale, simply drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Now we're going to breathe and hold here. So keep breathing in and out through the nose. Don't hold your breath. For a little bit more, float the left arm out away from the body. Might intensify that stretch here. A little bit more, bring the right hand up and the fingertips come just above the ear. Do not push down on the head. If anything, just use it as a guide to lengthen out a little bit more. Now, if it feels better to have the hand just kind of dropping down from the shoulder, do that. So we're always kind of just exploring and feeling. One other alternative, if you hold more tension in your upper back like I do, is to carefully take your drishti or your gaze down towards the lap. And then you will feel this stretch more up the back of the neck. One more breath. At the bottom of that next exhale, release the right hand to the ground. Keep your head where it is. And then we're all going to drop the chin down towards the chest and roll it forward. So we should be looking straight down to our belly button. Inhale, float the head back up. Good. Exhale, drop left ear to left shoulder. Just kind of let the arms hang down from the shoulders here. Our core is slightly engaged, so I'm not slouching and sinking into my pose. Float the right arm out, see how that feels. Intensifying the stretch up the neck. Left hand can float up just above the ear, adding a little bit more, lengthening. If we want to go for the back of the neck, take the gaze down towards the lap a little bit. We should feel that stretch up the back. And we'll all take one more breath on this side. At the bottom of that exhale, bring the left hand back down. We'll all drop the chin down and around to look straight down at the belly button. Inhale, float the head straight up on top of the shoulders. Turn the palms up and breathe in more air and reach it up. Big stretch. Palms touch. Exhale to our center. All right, let's get the lower half of our body moving. So we're going to make a big transition to tabletop. You can crawl forward. You can give your legs a stretch out, wiggle them around a little bit, and then we'll all flip ourselves around and meet in tabletop position. So once we're in our tabletop, we're going to set up a nice strong foundation by spreading those fingers nice and wide. Hands are as broad as our shoulders. Press it to the ground. Stack those knees right underneath our hips. You can have your toes tucked under here. We're going to draw that low belly in just to support our back and be mindful where the head is in space. Let's give our right leg a nice big stretch out behind us because we have been seated for a while. Time to take the socks off maybe. So press the ball of the foot back, press that heel back, press equally into both hands and open up the eye of that knee. So really big stretch for the back of the right leg. Breathe it in. Exhale, bring the right knee down. Let's stretch out the left leg. So keep your low back and hips level to the floor. Don't sink to one side. Press off the first knuckles of your fingertips to take some of the pressure out of the wrists. Press that left heel back. Open up the eye of the knee. Big breath in. Exhale, bring that knee down. So since I talked about child's pose before, let's go into it now, and then we're going to start our slow movement. So let's work our way to the back of our mat to start. Point the toes, big toes touch, knees open as wide as the mat. Draw the belly in to sink the sit bones back and down to those heels. Now I know for some of us that's not an option, so you will bring pillows or blankets behind the knees to sit onto, so there's not as much compression in the knees, or you will slide your forearms in. Keep your hips elevated in more of a puppy pose and just drop the head towards the hands. Those of us are sitting back, keep pulling the belly in, but allow it to relax down as well. That heart is sinking to the floor. If we're able to keep our fingertips extended to the front corners of the mat, really press out through the index fingers, and you'll get a nice opening for the shoulders. The head should be grounded, whether that's on the floor, your hands, or a yoga prop. Take a couple nice deep breaths here. Remembering that this is a pose that we can come back to at any time during our practice when we want to check back with our body and our breath. Next inhale is going to float the head and the body back up to tabletop. So we need to stack those knees back underneath the hips. Tuck the toes under. Walk the hands 1 hand's distance forward. So we're going to start going through our modified Surya Namaskar. We're going to do the low setting first. So this will create heat in the body and start to loosen stuff up. Some of us might be moving a little bit more slowly, some of us more quickly. What's important is that you stay connected to your alignment and your breath, and you might have to take an extra breath here and there. So don't worry about any of that. So our hands are going to extend slightly more forward in front of the shoulders, pull the low belly in. On the inhale, glide forward into kneeling plank. So the tailbone should be tucking under, the arms are strong. If you lift your knees up, you should find yourself in a full plank position if you want to check your alignment. Now on this exhale, let's just take a bow. So I'm going to shift my hips back. I'm going to bow the head towards the ground, and I'll lift my palms up, coming into Hasta Bandha, to give my shoulders another big stretch and to take some weight off my wrists. Inhale, kneeling plank. We're going to add on. On this exhale, bend your elbows back, upper arm bones graze the rib cage into a half chaturanga dandasana. Inhale, straighten the arms back up. Exhale, take your bow. Let's try that one more time. So inhaling, kneeling plank. Exhale, flexion at the elbow joint, and maybe it's just a half an inch. As you build up more upper body strength, you might go a little lower. Inhale, straighten the arms again. Exhale, take a bow. Now we're going to bring it down towards the ground. Inhaling forward to kneeling plank. This exhale, keep the belly pulled in, tailbone tucked. We're going to lower all the way down to the ground, onto the belly and the chest. The hands are underneath the shoulders. Point the toes, flatten out the tops of the feet. Keeping those feet wider than the hips if we take care of our low back, or gluing the insides of the feet and legs to touch. Chin is forward. Bhujangasana. Simply start by pulling your elbows in, squeezing your shoulder blades together, tighten up the back muscles, and inhale, lift the heart. Squeeze the mid back, low back, and even your glutes will assist. Exhale, come down and kiss the mat. Tuck those toes under. Tuck the tailbone under. Elbows are nice and tight to the body. Inhale, push up. Kneeling plank. Exhale, take a bow. Hop your wrists up. Drive your fingertips into the ground. So that's one round. We're going to try 2 more. Stay at my pace or move at a pace that works better for you. Inhale, kneeling plank. Exhale, lower down to the belly. Good. Chin forward, flatten the tops of the feet, squeeze the muscles of the back, and inhale, Bhujangasana Cobra. You're welcome to take any variation that you feel comfortable with. Exhale, lower back down, kiss the mat. Tuck the toes in the tailbone, elbows squeeze and tight. Inhale, push the upper body back up to kneeling plank. Exhale, pull the hips back, take a bow. One more round with our breath. Let's try to go through all those steps on our own. So after that round, next time we go to take a bow, we can actually sit a little further back into a child's pose if we want. Maybe bringing the hands a little closer in, sitting the sit bones back to the heels or pointing the toes. Pause for a moment, take a breath, see how it feels. And then we're going to build on that as well. So inhale, come back up. We'll start in more of a tabletop position. And some of us are going to want to reach around and maybe get our blanket nearby. We're going to be doing some kneeling lunges. We'll just do it from one side to the other. So if you do want some extra cushion, you can have that handy. Another fun little trick is just to bend the long edge of your yoga mat under when we get there. So we're back in our tabletop. Toes are tucked under, low bellies in. Walk those hands, one hand's distance forward. Inhale, kneeling plank. Exhale, bring it all the way down. Lower, nice and strong. Good. Point the toes, chin forward. Squeeze the back. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, bring it back down. Kiss the mat. Tuck toes and tailbone. Inhale, push up. Strong core, strong upper body. Exhale, take your bow. Now inhale, come back up into this modified tabletop. Reach behind the right thigh and step the right foot safely forward. So we want our right ankle to be directly underneath our right knee. If you have those yoga blocks nearby, some people like to use them as a stepping stone. So you can also create a little bit more space for your body here. We are going to come up, take that cushion under the left knee as needed. Now pull the belly in, one hand at a time, place it on that right thigh. Push the thigh away from you as you lift the body up. Good. So we're drawing front body to back body. Anchor that upper buttock down to the ground. Shoulders and hips are square to the front of our mat. Now energetically, push your left hip more forward. And the more you can get this tuck under, we should feel a big stretch up the front of our left quadricep. Little balancing act, so if you need to open the right foot out a little wider, you can. You may stay here. A little bit more, we'll float those arms up and draw the head of the arm bones back, lengthen up the back of the neck and gaze upwards into a low lunge. Awesome. Big breath in. Take as many breaths and movements as you need to come back down. We're going to exhale either to that front thigh, blocks or fingertips. And then we need to step our right foot back to meet our left. We may choose to take a vinyasa. We can cat-cow or take a resting pose and child's pose. If you're joining me in that vinyasa, you inhale to the kneeling plank. Exhale with control, elbows in, all the way down, Chaturanga Dandasana. Chin forward, point the toes, squeeze the back. Inhale, Bhujangasana. Exhale brings us back down to kiss the mat, tucking tailbone and toes under. Inhaling, pushing back up to kneeling plank. Exhale, draw the belly in, shift the hips back, take a bow. Inhale back into this long tabletop variation. You can inch the hands a little closer in. Left hand behind left thigh. Carefully, safely wiggle that left foot forward. Knee over ankle. Really ground through the four corners of that foot. Yoga blocks might help us create a little bit of space. Pull the belly in. One hand at a time, walk it up. Add that cushion under the right knee as needed. Now press that thigh away from you as you lift the torso up. So we should be feeling a little bit of opening in that left hip crease as well. Belly in, upper buttock rooted down. Shift the right hip forward. Big stretch here. At least I have a really big stretch. I have a really tight quad, so I really feel this pose. It is a balancing pose, so you can open your left foot a little bit wider as needed. Square the shoulders and the hips. Add the arms and breathe if you like. Pull the head of the arm bones back. The neck should be long. Drishti can move upwards. Good. Keep pushing your right hip forward if you want more. Big breath in. Exhale. Take your time. Use as many steps as needed and as many breaths. Hands to thigh, blocks, or fingertips. Left foot comes back to meet the right foot. Choose to pause, take a break, or vinyasa. Inhale, kneeling plank. Tuck that tailbone under strongly. Exhale, lower down. Keep the head in line with the spine. Chin forward, flatten the feet, squeeze the back, Bhujangasana as you lift up. Feel the heart opening. Exhale, kiss the mat, tuck the toes and the tailbone, pull the inner belly in, squeeze the elbows in, push it up, inhaling. Exhale, take a bow or shift back a little further into a child's pose. You can bring the hands under the forehead. The toes can be tucked under still. Notice how the body feels. I definitely feel slightly warmer, a little bit more circulation moving now. Next inhale floats the head, spread the fingers, come back up to our tabletop. The toes are still tucked under. Walk those hands about 1 hand's distance forward. Draw the belly in. We're gonna lift up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Downward facing dog. So remembering this is an inversion, really great to do first thing in the morning, get that blood flow to our brain. But if we need to come back down for any reason, just sit back down. Pedal those heels out, coming back into the backs of those legs, one heel at a time, bending the opposite knee. Really try to root down through the mound of the index finger and thumb, so internal rotation in the forearms, but externally rotate your upper arm bones away from the ears. Let the head just float between those upper arm bones. And now let's really try to shift the weight down the backs of those legs. Feel free to keep a bend in them if that's better for the back. One more breath here. Inhale, look forward. Baby step, walk feet to hands, hands to feet. Uttanasana, forward fold. You may stay upside down. Feet, legs should be super strong. Core is pulling in. Grab opposite elbows if you want to do a little bit more loosening for the head and shoulders again. If you modify, like I do quite often for my back, I place the weight of my elbows on my thighs, my knees are bent, and then I just kind of dangle one arm at a time out of the socket to try and get rid of some tension that way. And then we're all going to do a little bit more strengthening today for the upper back, improving our posture, working the back of our heart and our halfway lifts. So walk those hands, ankles, shins, or even higher. I sometimes even put my hands on my thighs. Squeeze the back muscles, lift the chest, over exaggerate it, flatten out that back, halfway lift. Good. Exhale, your fold, whatever that looks like for you. Inhale, hands, ankles, shins are higher, squeeze the upper back, open the heart, gaze slightly forward, good. Exhale, fold. Those of us that want even more, inhale, halfway lift, locust the arms beside the body. So you'll straighten your arms out, reach your fingertips back, and the palms should be facing each other. Exhale, fold. Just one more. Inhale, big squeeze for the back. Tighten up the core, pull your shoulder blades together. Those of you Shalabhasana, the arms, squeeze the palms towards each other. Exhale, we're all gonna sit back into Uttanasana. So if you have your arms behind you, you'll just sweep them forward. If you were supported like me, I'm gonna sit my sit bones back, get my legs into position, knees are bent, and then reach my arms forward and upwards. Simply bend at the elbows if that frees up a little bit more for your neck. So we're sitting back towards that visible chair, feet are parallel, knees pointing forward. This is a big, powerful pose for the lower half of the body. And try to pull the head of those arm bones back again. Big breath in. On the exhale, join the palms to touch, bring them back in front of that heart center. We'll go right into a little bit of our balance work. So fix the eyes on one point and try to hover the right foot from the floor. Good, lower it down, hover the left foot from the floor. Knees should be bending, knees pointing right towards those toes. Bring that foot down. Let's see if we can't sit further back and down. And then on the inhale, draw a big circle with the hands. So drop your fingertips down, straighten the legs, reach your arms out, palms up. Now take it all the way up to the ceiling. Lift those heels up. Grow as tall as we possibly can, as much extension. Turn the palms out. Exhale. Let's lower the heels. and let the arms float down into Tadasana. So stand tall here for a moment, adjust the feet if needed, pick up those toes, feel the corners of the feet grounded, unlock those knees so shin bones move slightly forward, front body pulls to back body, turning the palms forward today, so this is that external rotation, the upper arm bone. Give your shoulder blades a little squeeze back there, still feeling this opening here. Let the head float. On the inhale, let's reach it back up, big stretch. Drishti to thumbs for a gentle back bend if you want it. Palms touch, exhale to our center. So we're gonna do just 2 more rounds of Surya Namaskar, our modified version from standing now. So if we're not already there, let's make our way to the top of our yoga mat. Clear your space, have enough openness around the body to move. Your feet are a few inches apart. Float those arms back out beside the body. Back of the head, shoulders, that low buttock, everything should be touching that invisible wall. Pull in through the core. Turning the palms out, inhale, reach out and up. Drishti to thumbs for that gentle back bend. Now bend at the knees, exhale, hinge from the hips. We're gonna take a swan dive all the way back down. Pulling the arms back, down and around is a little bit better for our low back. You can stop halfway or try to go a little further back into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands to shins or higher, open the chest, squeeze the upper back, shoulder blades, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. We're all gonna take a big step back, 1 foot at a time. Try to switch it up. If you know you always lead with your right foot, do the left. And we should end up in full plank here, full plank. Kneeling plank, always an option. Tuck that tailbone under. Exhale, lower all the way down to the ground. Chin forward, flatten the tops of the feet. Squeeze the elbows in, shoulder blades together. Inhale, using the strength of your back, lift up, cobra pose. Exhale, come back down, kiss the mat, tuck the tail and the toes, and push back up as you inhale to kneeling or full plank. On the exhale, we'll either meet back in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. You can also be in tabletop or child's pose, no problem. Now, some of us on our next inhale will lift our right leg up behind us from downward facing dog, look forward and step the right foot forward into a lunge. I am going to drop back down to my knees and do the modified version. So I'm on my knees, right hand behind the right thigh, placing my right foot safely forward. From there, float the back knee up so we'll all end up in this low lunge. And then pull the belly in, walk one hand at a time to that front thigh bone, push the thigh away from you, pull the belly in to bring the body up. Push your left hip forward. So we should be in a high lunge. Anchor the tailbone down. You can start with your hands on your hips if you want. Shoulders and hips should be square to the front corners of the mat. So if we're in high lunge, pushing the hip forward, still stretching out that left hip flexor, you're welcome to angle and drop that left heel down into more of a Virabhadrasana 1 stance or warrior 1 to stretch more through the left Achilles. Hold here, keep breathing, or we'll add the arms, reaching the arms up, pulling the head of those arm bones back, keep the neck long. Let the palms face each other here. Take a big breath in. Exhale, we're gonna bring it all the way down. Take as many movements, breaths as you need to. If the heel is down, pop it up. Hands can come to the front thigh. The knee can come back down. Fingertips come back down. And then we'll bring the right foot back to meet the left. So they'll either be back in your kneeling or full plank. You may choose to stay here, a resting pose, or take a vinyasa. Exhaling down through Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhaling, back strengthening, heart opening cobra. Exhaling, bringing it all the way back down to kiss the mat and tuck the tail. Inhale, pressing the body back up to kneeling or full plank. Exhale, we'll take several deep breaths in our resting pose. Adho Mukha Svanasana, tabletop, child's pose, whatever works, just breathe.
So other side. Again, if you have the mobility, you may inhale left leg up and exhale, step it forward between the hands. If you're like me, drop to the knees first, left hand behind the thigh, carefully place that left foot forward, ankle underneath the knee. From there, hover the back knee up, pull the belly in, one hand at a time onto that front thigh, and we use that thigh bone as a prop to lift up. Strong core engagement, really root the tailbone down. Little balance work in this high lunge. Push the right hip forward, getting that intense stretch up the front of the quad. Good. Hands could come onto the hips. Hips are still squaring to the front of the mat. Drop an angle, right heel down a few degrees. If you want that bigger stretch, you should still be able to keep both feet equally weighted. Add those arms if you like, reaching them forward, up, and back. Gaze may move upwards. Good. Nice options. One more big breath in. And we'll breathe to let it go and come back down. Again, pick up that back heel. Some of you might be coming all the way down in one breath. You can go into your vinyasa, take an extra one if you want, or we'll take the steps. Hands to thigh, knee down, hands down. Left foot comes back. Ending up, kneeling or full plank, choosing to vinyasa, or take a pose of our choice. Follow the breath. Try to do it on your own if you can. We should all meet in our resting pose, which can be down dog, tabletop, or child's pose. And then just simply observe and breathe. Next inhale, look forward. Baby step walk, feet to hands, hands to feet. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to shins or higher. Lift the heart, squeeze the back, shoulder blades tighten up. Exhale, sit back into Uttanasana. Bend the knees, invisible chair. Reaching the arms forward, up and back. And then straighten the legs, reach the fingertips up to the ceiling. Take a big breath in. Lift the heels up. Try to get as tall as you can. Turn those palms out. And exhale, float it down. Heels in the arms until we're back in Tadasana. Pause and breathe. And relax for a moment. So we're going to do one little standing stretch here. We'll want our yoga strap if you have one. So if you have your yoga strap nearby, go ahead and grab that. If you don't have a strap, any type of long scarf would do. It's just something that we can apply tension to help open up the shoulders a little bit more. So this can be a really nice one to open up the whole shoulder girdle. But we often have one shoulder that might be a little bit more stiff or tight from a past injury or for a repetitive use, whatever the reason being. So when the one shoulder says that's enough, that's the one we listen to. Even if the other one's like, I can go another 50 degrees, you gotta ignore that. And that's more our ego saying, I know I could do it better on the other side. It's not about doing it better or doing it more. It's about bringing balance back into our life. So as we're working in our upper body, we still want our lower body to be nice and grounded. So we should be in mountain pose to the lower half of the body. So strong legs, knees unlocked, four corners of each foot equally weighted. You can pull up through those pelvic floor muscles, Mula Bandha. Uddiyana Bandha can be engaged underneath the navel center. Anchor the tailbone down. So keep the core nice and powerful. Starting with a wider grip is often better too, because we can always narrow the grip, but the wider will give us a little bit more mobility, generally speaking. So on the inhale, tension on the strap, pull it forward and up. And you might go slightly behind the head, that's fine. And then on our exhale, you just bring it back down. If you're like, I'm going to bring my hands a little closer together, see how that feels. Make adjustments. Pull on the strap. Inhale. Bring it up, maybe slightly back. When you start to pull it back, don't let everything else go and do that gymnastic move. It will wreak havoc on your low back. Pull the belly in, root the tailbone, strong legs. So that lower half should not move. Exhale. Now, if you want to take it full, you might have to open wider again, bringing it up, back, and around. That's not for everybody, so don't force it. And just follow the breath so we can go up and around as many times as we need to. The head should just be floating. Good. And do try to keep tension on the belt the whole time. Feels so good. It's like getting a massage from the inside out. So let's bring the strap back down in front of us for a moment. Kind of loosey-goosey your shoulders, neck, wiggle your fingertips. So we're going to do a little lateral extension. For my low back people, it's going to be super important that the core is really engaged, and we want to move in that lateral plane, so we're not adding any flexion or anything like that. So grip your strap nice and wide, pull on it, strong legs. Inhale, bring those arms up. On the exhale, squeeze your right side to lean over to the right. We should feel a big stretch to the left. Keep tension on the belt. Inhale, pull yourself up. Exhale, squeeze the left side to stretch the whole right. Little lean, equal weight in those feet. Good. Inhale it up. One more time to each side. Exhale, move in that lateral plane. So the heart and the throat should stay open. Breathe it in. And one more time to our left. Now inhale, bring it up. And we're going to try to find our best stretch for our chest and our shoulders today. And then we're just going to hold it. So I'm allowing my arms to just kind of fall backwards a little bit. Belly's in, strong legs. Don't hyperextend through the spine. I'm pulling on my belt and out, but there's no tension in my face or neck. I just get this really big opening through the chest. Try to keep your wrists as straight as possible. So if you're really collapsed at the wrist, maybe open your grip even wider. Good. Big breath in. On the exhale, let's float that strap all the way back down and around. The goodness comes when we release that pose. It feels really good to hold it. It feels really good to let it go too. So just drop your strap down. Shake your hands out, firm up your legs, bring the inside of the feet and legs to touch if you want to work on your balance for this next pose. This is our little Qigong swinging movement. So our arms are just wet noodles. I'm not trying to do anything with my arms. I'm moving here in my torso, and I'm just letting my arms kind of flop around. You can do a little bit of movement with your hips as well. Just make sure you're not twerking or feeling any funkiness around the knees. And then if you speed up the tempo, your arms are really going to start slapping into you, and you might feel them hit into your low back, around the kidneys and the adrenal glands. So this is a great pose to do if we have a lot of tension and stress in our body. We just need to move it out. And then we just start to slow it down until we just kind of come back to a little resting pose here. So we're gonna do one more standing pose. It's gonna be our one-legged balance pose. So if we haven't glued the feet and legs together, go ahead and do so now. Draw in and up through those lower bandhas and locks to help stabilize the body. Turn the palms out, big breath in, reach it up. Palms touch, exhale, hands to heart. Hover the right heel from the floor without collapsing into your hips or shifting your pelvis. Keep this level. At the hip, open the knee out. We'll move into a variation of Rakshasana today, tree pose. Toes may stay down, or we may softly bring the sole of the foot to the inner ankle or calf. Some people like to lift the foot up to their inner thigh. You're welcome to do that. Avoid pressing the foot into the standing knee, so it's either below it or above it. Lift up, belly in. Relax the shoulders from the ears. Relax the face. If our tree is getting some weather today and blowing around, just bring it back. So the option I'm going to give to you today is actually bring the arms behind the body and either try to take hold of opposite elbows, opening the chest. We don't find the elbows. You may find opposite wrists or one wrist. Some of us might be able to interweave all 10 fingers again and reach the knuckles to the floor and really squeeze those shoulder blades into a chest expansion. So we should all be able to find an option, even if it's hands to hips and just pulling the elbows back. But don't let go of those lower ribs, pull them in. The breath should be flowing smoothly and evenly. To help with our balance, fixing the drishti on one spot towards the floor is often a little easier for our brain. One more breath. Release the grip, turn your palms out. Inhale, reach up. Palms touch. Exhale, hands to heart center. We'll try to do our slow release. Do what you can. Point the knee forward. Extend the leg out first, and then drop it back down to the ground. Try to pause and find stillness. So let go of any unnecessary fidgeting or movement and just breathe. Drop the hands down. Inhale, reach out nice and wide all the way up. Palms touch, bring it back to heart center. Lift up through the pelvic floor, give it a squeeze and a lift. Pull that low belly in, keep your locks engaged. Hover the left heel from the floor at the hip. Open the knee out, so we're engaging through the outer thigh to glute. Try to find symmetry here from your first side to this side. If you cannot do what you did on your first side and this side, next time you practice this pose, you should modify what you're doing on the first side so it remains balanced and equal. Pelvis is floating nice and evenly, belly's in. Adding the arms, reach around. Maybe try to take a hold of opposite elbows, a wrist, hips, or interweave all 10 fingers. If you're gripping the hands, try to take the opposite grip, opposite pinky in front. One side is generally a little bit more challenging to balance than the other as well. Keep the gaze focused. Keep the breath moving. One more breath. Release the grip. Inhale, arms going to float all the way out and up. Palms touch. Exhale to our heart. Point the knee forward. Extend the leg out. Lower it back down. Pause. Samastitihi, standing stillness. And then relax. We might need to rearrange ourselves on our mat. We're going to meet back at the front of our mat and prepare to transition back down to the ground. So we want to stand back tall in our traditional Tadasana, feet hips width apart, knees unlocked, front body to back body. Palms can turn forward today. Fingers can spread wide. Opening the heart, floating the head on top of the shoulders. And again, trying to follow our breath as best as we can. Inhale, reach out wide, all the way up to the ceiling. Drishti to thumbs for gentle back bend. Less chance to stretch it out. Exhale, swan dive down. So micro bend the knees, hinge from the hips, pull the belly in. The arms sweep down and around. We're going to hang out here for an extra moment just to give our back another stretch. Take your version of Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, squeeze the back. Exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Opposite foot steps back if you can remember. Plank position or kneeling plank. Hold, resting pose, or choose to join me for another vinyasa. Keep your alignment. Exhaling down. Inhaling, Bhujangasana, cobra pose. Exhale, kissing the mat, tucking the tail and the toes under. Pull the belly in, inhale, push back up, kneeling or full plank. Exhale to our resting pose. And that resting pose might change throughout the practice. At the beginning, we might be in downward dog, and then we change to child's pose or vice versa. One more breath wherever we are. Down dog, people, on our next inhale, lift your heels up as high as you can. Stretch out the soles of the feet and the toes. Exhale, lower the knees to the ground, point the toes. We'll try to sit back in another version of Balasana or child's pose. Sit bones to heels, head to the ground, hands sweep back to the feet. Or today, take a hold of an opposite wrist across your low back. Allow the shoulders to drop back down. One more breath. And then bring the hands under the shoulders, tuck the chin, and on our inhale, we're going to round it up one vertebra at a time. Stacking ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. You're welcome to transition differently for your knees. Shift those. Actually, I want us to stay here. I keep getting ahead of myself today. So if you can, stay in your seated heroes pose. Have 2 yoga blocks nearby. And we're actually going to come to kneeling. We're going to do one last back bending pose. And you're probably going to want some extra cushion. So one option is to take the front of your yoga mat and bend it back towards you. You can always take your blanket. I'm going to make it a little wider fold and have that underneath you. This is going to be for our knees and our shins. So what we'll end up doing is coming into a kneeling position with our toes tucked under. So we're going to do a variation of Uttanasana today. We are not going to try to reach back. I said to grab the blocks only if you want to try to add a little bit more. The blocks will be there. But I generally have my classes practice Uttanasana with the hands on the low back the whole time. But I'm going to give you that option today because I know some of you might be doing this in some other classes or your practice. So if you have the yoga blocks and you want to use them, place them on their tall setting, right in line with your ankles. We have a few inches between our knees and our feet, about 2 fist distance. So if you make 2 fists and you place them between your knees, that's about the distance we want so that our thigh bones are in line with our hip sockets here. So the next thing we want to try to do is get our palms onto our low back. For some of us, this is going to be challenging because mobility in our shoulders. If you're unable to place your palms on your low back, you may take your thumbs into that low back, but you will be intently squeezing your elbows back to open the chest and the heart. If you're able to bring the palms flat, then the pinkies will touch behind you. And you might also be using fists for wrists instead. So you make 2 fists in your hands and press your knuckles into your low back. Most importantly, we still want to draw in through those lower ribs and lift up out of the body. Imagine that our thighs and our belly and even part of our chest is pressed against a wall. And we do not want to have the thighs, the hips, or the belly leave the wall. So for some of us, this is intense enough. Now the tops of the feet can be flat or the toes tucked under. Squeeze your elbows back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. On the inhale, try to lift up. Now the chin can gently float. We're not dropping the weight of our head back. And I want you to try to push your hips into that invisible wall. So do tighten up your glutes. So they should be consciously activated, not unconsciously just clenched. Give them enough squeeze to help you press your hips forward. Now lift the chest up. Feel like somebody is scooping you up by your shoulder blades and lifting the heart up. Back of the neck should be long. The gaze can roll up. And as you squeeze your glutes, if your hips are forward into that wall, you may drop one hand at a time and see if those yoga blocks are nearby. If they are not, let it go. Don't worry about it. If they are close to and you're able to reach your fingertips to the yoga blocks, you may do so. Regardless, if you're reaching towards props or your heels, there's never any weight in your hands. So if you are reaching back, do not shift the weight into your hands. Our glutes are tight, body's strong, heart is lifting and opening. It's challenging to breathe, but we can do anything for 10 more seconds. So keep breathing, lift the heart. Our next inhale will lift us out of the pose. If your hands are down, you need to place your hands back on your low back. Inhale, lift up through the heart. The heart leads, the head follows. Try to keep the hands on the low back. Sit the sit bones back down to the heels if it's an option, or those yoga blocks might come in handy to sit down. Then move the hands to the knees, fingertips to the knees. On the inhale, take a baby seated cow, lifting the heart. On the exhale, pull the belly in, a very gentle rounding of the back to stretch out those muscles. Inhale, tip the pelvis forward, lift the heart, gently arch the low back. Exhale, pull the belly in, posterior tilt in the pelvis, drop the chin to the chest. One more, seated cat-cow. Inhale to a neutral position. If we need a bigger stretch before we transition, walk your hands forward, give that back another stretch. You may keep the body more upright. Bring the elbows to the floor, hands into prayer position, and rest the head in the webbing of your thumbs and index fingers. And then bring the hands back down, the head and the body back up. This time, we will shift over to either hip. We're gonna rearrange our space if we've adjusted. And it's time to come down to our back. So if you got layers that you wanna put back on while you're seated and it's more readily available, I'm gonna put my socks back on. Go ahead and do so. Blankets, pillows, you might wanna have those things handy and nearby today. Have enough space behind the body here. You may either come to one side. We did some back bending today, so you might want to take the more gentle version of coming down to your side and then rolling onto your back. If you do want to do our roll down that I do in class, soles of the feet touch, knees open, bellies in, fingertips forward, and we roll it down. Strong core. Now, once we all come down to the ground, we're going to drop the back of the head to the ground, walk the feet in, hug those knees in, and massage the back. And we'll finish up today with a spinal twist that will help release the muscles down the spine. So keep the knees together, feet parallel. Reach the arms back out from the shoulders like airplane wings. Exhale, lower the knees together over to the right. Slide a support underneath that bottom thigh if they do not easily touch. Sink the left shoulder back down into the ground. Place the right hand on top of the left thigh to deepen the twist. The head turns to the left, close the eyes, slow the breathing down, and just wring everything out. Relax the face, the throat, and the shoulders. Try to take one more big belly breath. The next inhale will bring the head and the knees back up to center. If you feel like you need to drop the feet down for a moment and do a little adjustment in the low back, do that. And then hug those knees in, keep your feet parallel to each other. Exhale, lower the knees to the left. Add support as needed. Sink the right shoulder to the ground, turn the head to the right. Left hand could be on top of the right thigh to intensify the twist. Close the eyes, slow, deep breaths in and out through the nose. Exhaling away any tension or tightness, relax the body, the muscles in the body.
One more big belly breath on this side. Next inhale, we'll bring the head and the knees back up. Realign the low back, shoulders, and the head. Reaching over those shin bones if it's an option. Floating the nose up to the knees to give that back another big stretch. Loving and appreciating our body and telling ourselves and our bodies how much we love them, especially all those areas that we have to take care of. I love you knees, I love you low back, I love you shoulders, I love you neck. Breathe it in. On our exhale, we're going to let it go. We're going to get comfortable. We're going to add props, maybe on top of the body, under the body. Add your extra layers. We want to stay warm when we start to slow down in Shavasana. So we're going to go right into our final relaxation. Adjust your surroundings, loosen up the clothing. Make sure you don't have any ponytails, moving your head around. Poof the cheeks with air, yawn, swallow a couple times. Release all the muscles around the mouth, the tongue, and the jaw. Find the back center of the skull. Roll the arm bones open slightly away from the torso with the palms up and let the fingertips curl up naturally. Relax and soften the area around the heart. Soften the back of the heart. Release the low back into the ground. Relax the belly completely, all of the abdominal muscles and internal organs. Relax the large muscles around the hips, hip sockets, buttocks, and thighs. And then let that relaxation flow all the way down the legs, to the feet and the toes. Relax the whole body. Soften and relax the inside of the body. Let the breath be easy, quiet, and calm. And if the mind wanders, gently bring it back to the peaceful breath, giving ourselves just one more moment this morning to let go, to relax, and to simply be and breathe. slowly start to come back to the breath. And we'll start to breathe some life back into the body as we wake up the toes, the fingertips. Give the head a rock side to side. Reaching those arms overhead for a moment back to our long body stretch. Stretching the body out side to side, front to back. Spread those fingers and toes. Take a big breath in. On the exhale, we'll float the arms down, walk the feet in. If it's available, hug the knees in to massage the back. Bringing one arm beside the head, we'll roll off to our side in a fetal position. Cradle the head on the arm, let the top hand fall to the floor in front of the heart. Pause for a moment. And then try to keep the eyes closed or very soft. Press down into the ground to bring the body back up. We will revisit any comfortable seated position and just take a couple more breaths together this morning. So find those sit bones, sit up nice and tall through the crown of the head. Be mindful of our surroundings. Reach the arms back out beside the body. Turn the palms up. Big breath in. Float those arms up to the ceiling and gather up everything we need for the rest of our day. Turn those palms out. Big breath out. Floating the fingertips all the way back down to the floor and letting go of all that other junk we don't need today. One more time. Inhale those arms up. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. Humbly bow the head down to the heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and remembering to be grateful to anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. Join me in the Om Shanti mantra if you like, taking a deep breath in to begin. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om